Welcome to Two Bid SoCon. I am Jack Gold, joined as always by my guy Matt St. Charles. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm freezing my butt off over here. It's been very cold the past few days.
Yeah, it has been not ideal. I'm here in Nashville. We got like 8 inches, probably like 8 to a foot. I didn't leave the house for 2 days. Yesterday I went and scraped off my car to about 8 inches. My arms were tired. It was a whole workout getting everything off my car, so it was bad. But
Yeah, we
it's
didn't
been
even
pretty bad.
get snow. We just got ice. There's just
That's
ice
just
everywhere.
typical Chattanooga, man. It's
Yeah,
Chattanooga weather just sucks. Just
yeah,
gonna get
it's not
cold,
fun.
not gonna snow, gonna rain all the time.
Hmm.
Eh, Yeah, not ideal. All right, so we got a good episode for you guys today. We're gonna repick kind of like a midway through the season, repick all of our awards. So preseason we did an awards show episode where we picked all the awards. We're gonna repick everything, what we feel like today, who we would give awards and whatnot. Then we're gonna talk obviously probably the game of the year in the SoCon. I would say at least to this point, and definitely the most eyes on it. Samford, Western Carolina. That was a big game the other day. Then we're going to talk a little bit about our podcast name, Two Bid SoCon. Is that a real thing? And then we'll talk about the other games that happened last night. First and foremost, I guess let's start off. Let's start off with our awards. We're going to go Player of the Year first, and I don't even know if this is really like we don't even
Yeah,
have to spend this much time on it. It's Fontarius Woolbright.
it's
That's who you
Fulbright.
got? I hope.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he's put up historic numbers. There's not really at this point. It's his race to lose, and it's going to be really hard to lose. Like he would have to play really poorly, and with his usage rate, just the way Western Carolina runs everything through him, and I do like they lately have gotten away from just hey let's ISO him every single play, but it's going to be hard for him to lose it, and it's going to take I don't know, Mikal Brown Jones to keep on putting up 39-point performances, or Achor to keep putting up 33 and whatever he had against Samford that game. So that's going to be tough. Then we'll go to our first team. Here's what we do. We're not here for participation awards. One of my biggest pet peeves at the end of the year is when when like the SEC or this, all these leagues will do all SEC. They won't do a first team or second team, and they'll just do like 11 players, 12
Yeah.
players. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. Do a first team, do a second team. We're doing a first team. That's all we're going to pick. We'll give some honorable mentions. Matt, I'll let you start off. Give me your five and tell me, uh, who you picked and why you picked them.
Yeah, obviously first, we have the unanimous player of the year and Woolbright, and then second off I have Achor. Dude's having a monster year. He's averaging almost 17 points a game on 61% from the field and 51% from three. And he's helped lead Samford to 16-2 without Jermaine Marshall. So I've got him on there. Then I've got Mikal Brown Jones, obviously one of the other player of the year candidates, averaging almost 20 a game on 58% from the field and 61% from three. He's been leading that UNC Greensboro team. These last two spots are where we kind of get, iffy, where,
Tough.
any of our honorable mentions you can certainly make an argument for, and I won't be mad at you. But I'm going Trey Bonham as of now. 18 points a game. This Chattanooga team's still figuring out. We've talked about it a lot, but he kind of gives life to that team, and he's really helped them in his time back so far. In the last spot, I'm actually going with Corey Tripp from Wofford.
Okay.
Listen, he's averaging 16 points a game, and don't look now, but Wofford is 4-1. Don't know that they'll keep that up, but as of now, he would get my vote for all SoCon.
I don't hate it. I like Trip a lot, and
Again,
Wofford.
any of the honorable mentions, I can easily swap. I'm with you, but for now, I'll give it to Tripp.
Wofford is a nice 4-1 with a 0-point differential on the season. I'm pretty sure they've beaten everybody by 1 or 2 points. It's pretty unreal how their season's gone, and we'll talk about them later a little bit more. So I've got this top three the exact same: Woolbright, MBJ, Achor. And I wanted to say, just think preseason. I don't know. I should have gone back and looked. I don't know exactly who my team was preseason, but I know for sure neither of us had Macau Brown Jones and Achora Chor as locks. Definitely not Achora
Absolutely
Chor.
not.
I
You
thought
know,
Achora Chor was going to have a good year. Like I knew they liked him, and I liked some of what I saw from him last year. But I did not think he was going to be as good as he's been so far. Part of that's with Marshall being out. I mean, there's
right.
been big opportunity, but same
Hmm.
with Macau Brown Jones. And this is something we talked about before recording here. I think Macau Brown Jones has another year. Yeah, if he wants it,
Yeah,
we'll have to. I'll have to certify that later. And that's the worst thing in college sports. I'll be so glad whenever the COVID year's gone. Like it's been cool and all, but when I have to go look up players' eligibility and it says like they're a senior, and like, well, are they? Do they have another year? Because legitimately, it's so confusing, and you never really can figure it out. Especially with JUCO guys too at a mid-major level. Like, oh, did they
hmm,
play JUCO? You don't know. Yeah. So Mikal Brown Jones, unreal player so far, and so is a Chor and then Wilbright obviously. Then I agree with you again. I went Trey Bonham,
okay,
and missing the time he did, can't take that against him because it's not like he's been hurt. He legitimately was not allowed to play. Dude, he none here's my biggest argument for Bonham is none of their problems, none of them have anything to do with Trey Bonham. He has been willing them to wins and keeping them in games. It's been unreal. The other night against Mercer, he had 27. I just pulled up his stats. Here's his points since he's gotten back playing. 14, 15 the next game, and that was a game winner from half court. 25, 9, 21, 12, 14, 25, 27. So he's gone over 25 three times, over 24 times, and it's been efficient, big
yep,
time buckets. Like he's not getting in the flow of the game buckets. It's ISO, cross tween, hezzy, step back three buckets. I mean, he is one of the coolest bucket getters in the whole SoCon. And I say that like he went to Florida last year. He could play at Florida like that, and that's not, and he did. Eventually he was too small for SC play. They stopped playing him as much, and they had a whole lot of other issues at Florida. But he's been Chattanooga by far. Honor Huff has really benefited from him too, but he's been by far their best player whenever he's been back, and he's also made a guy like Honor Huff took all that pressure off him, and Honor Huff's been playing way better basketball too, a lot more consistent. Side note, that's one of the most fun 1-2 punches in SoCon history, in my opinion. Then the fifth spot, like you said, those 4 and 5s are tough. The fifth spot, I went JP Pegues. And I didn't realize, I felt like Pegues has been injured more than he has been, but he's still played 15 games. He's averaging 17 a game. Most of the time seems to be the focal point of Furman's offense. And I'll be interested to see how it plays out because I think he's going to have a tough time maybe finishing this strong unless Furman really becomes just a three-man show. Because I think Alex Williams has looked awesome. Marcus Foster would be on here if he hasn't been hurt so much. I think once he gets back, he's got a really good chance of making it anyway. But I went Pegues just because of his availability, and I think one of those Furman guys probably deserves it. In saying that, this was a tough list to cut down to 5 because, like you had, Corey Tripp. I don't hate that at all. Corey Tripp has, especially late game, they're 4-1. Corey Tripp has carried Wofford to wins. He's been that big bucket getter late game. AJ Staten McCray has been an efficient bucket. I mean, I thought I had a tough time really taking two guys from Samford. I almost did. I almost put Staten McCray in there, but just because they're so team centered,
hmm,
Chore's had these big performances lately, and that's why I chose him over Staten McCray. But they are just such a good team. It's not like they're missing the guy I picked for Player of the Year preseason.
yeah,
Like and they're on the nation's longest win streak. So they're just, it's tough to narrow that down to one. Another guy, Russell Jones Jr., I think is
there it
deserving of.
is.
I think he's deserving of being in that conversation. And
I'm with you.
a little bit like Corey Tripp, is his numbers aren't always as big, which Tripp's are, but Russell Jones Jr. hits big shot after big shot when Sanford or when Western Carolina needs it. He has been so impressive this year, especially playing off the ball, letting Woolbright work. There's something to that, staying in your game when it's not centered around you. And then another guy I really thought about was Keyshawn Langley, who's
Hmm.
kind of I wouldn't say fallen off, but he started pretty hot. Obviously dominated against Arkansas in that big win. I don't think he's quite as impressed me as much lately, and that's not a shot at him. That's just maybe Mikal Brown Jones has been so awesome. UNCG hasn't played, I would say, their best basketball through conference play so far, even though they did punk Chattanooga the other night, and we're not going to talk about that game just because it's been a while now. But that was pretty impressive from them. But yeah, that's my. It's about as
Yeah,
tough as
and
I can
then
remember with all those guys that could make it.
just scrolling through, just for reference, the top like scorers in the league. These are guys that you could make an argument for if you wanted to. Alex Williams having a good
Absolutely.
year. Honor Huff's having a pretty decent year. Jaden Seymour's having a great year.
Yeah, that's another
Let's
one I
see
forgot to
here. We
mention.
said Langley, we said Staten McRae, Russell Jones. You can make a Sam Alexis argument if you wanted to. You can make an argument for the two Citadel guards in AJ Smith and Elijah Morgan if you really wanted to. So this is a deep list, and it was really hard to cut down to five.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go on to our defensive player of the year. I got a feeling we might have the same one for this. Maybe not. Matt, who's your defensive player of the year and why?
I'm going once again, Kobe Langley.
Okay.
Do we not have the same one?
No, we don't.
No? Okay, interesting. So before the season, we both had Jermaine Marshall. He hasn't played, so, someone else has to step up. Kobe Langley last year won Defensive Player of the Year with 1.8 steals per game. This year, he's averaging 2.4 steals per game. Any of the best guards in the league, it feels like he can just pick their pocket at any time. He spearheads that UNCG defense because, he's always just there pestering whoever that opposing guard is. And one of the most underrated stats in the league to me is UNCG is dead last in blocks, but they're second in the league in scoring defense. It's all because of their perimeter defense with both Langleys, but mainly Kobe.
Okay, I like we're mixing it up here. I've got Sam Alexis.
I
Sam
can get
Alexis
behind that
has
too.
been
I can get behind that too.
unreal on defense this year. He's averaging 2.6 blocks a game. He's
Hmm.
almost getting 3 blocks a game. I think the next closest is a Chor with like 1.7. I've got Ken Palm up right now. He is top 20 in the nation in block percentage at I think he's 17th there. Defensive rebound percentage, which is also a defensive thing. I think that plays into it. He's top 50 in the nation. He really that's one of his best qualities is if he gets his hands on the ball, he's getting it. And you can't always say that, that's I would honestly have an argument for Charles Lampton. I think he's been awesome, but he can't
Mm,
get a board. He can't,
yeah.
he can't finish the block
Hmm.
um, that way. But yeah, Sam Alexis has been unreal. He's really, really and truly as good as I can think of, just shot blocking, making that difference. His athleticism is through the roof this year. I think, coming into the year, I don't think anybody knew who's gonna be I don't think last year anyone knew he was as athletic as he is this year because last year he had some extra weight on him. I heard somebody say um, on a broadcast that he bulked up, and I was like, "No, he slimmed down." He came
Yeah.
in with some baby fat on him, and now he is kind of ripped up because he's lost some
Hmm.
weight. It's the kind of the opposite of most freshmen. Not to say that he's overweight, but you can really tell. Super bouncy. Obviously, this is defense player of the year, so we won't talk about the offense. But the defense has been awesome this year, and analytically, he's one of the best in the nation, regardless of high major, mid major. So next we'll go freshman of the year. This one's another tough one. I'll let you go first once again. Who did you ultimately decide on for freshman of the year?
Yeah, this one took some searching because, a lot of teams are just so, not senior heavy, but they're veteran heavy. I
Mhm.
ended up going with David Thomas from Mercer. It's a guy that's, starting to find his groove. There's not too many freshmen that are producing on the level that he is. We both had Miles Che or at the beginning of the year that hasn't exactly panned out, but I mean, David Thomas is averaging 8.5 points a game on 43% from the field and 40% from three. And then over his last four, he's averaging almost 17 points a game. So he's really giving Mercer that scoring punch off the bench that they need. And he's only going to get better as the year goes on. So I've got Thomas.
Yeah, and you might be convincing me slowly that David Thomas is probably it. I didn't go with him. I thought Josh Holloway was who I had to go with. I was close between him and Riley Allenspach. I think they're both. I mean, just in general, Samford. I don't know if Buck. Honestly, I don't know if Bucky's going to last past this year, but if he does, and they keep everyone on campus, what a recruiting class they got in Holloway, Allensbach, Lucas Walls.
Mhm.
Those are three clear going to be good players probably at some point. And Samford plays a different style of basketball where those guys already are playing, but they're not featured or anything. But I think Josh Holloway. I think if he was featured, like I think if Josh Holloway had to chose a Chattanooga, where I think those were kind of the two top leaders in his recruitment were Chattanooga and Samford. If he had to chose to go to Chattanooga, and I think this year he'd be producing like we thought Miles Shea would, and like Miles Shea did early in the year, but he's fell off so much. I just think his game looks so ready, and he's just stuck behind a ton of really good guards, and not like he's stuck behind them. He's got one of the
Mhm.
highest when he's in the game. He's got one of the highest offensive usage rates. Like the ball is in his hands when he's in the game, and it's because he's has such a game that's ready for for this stage. And I went with him over David Thomas, but I think the counting stats for David Thomas might be so good that you can't. But I think Josh
Mhm.
Holloway's really contributed to winning. And at this point in time, I'm taking him, but I can kind of agree with you. Like he's averaged whatever 17 over the last 4 games. I think his role is going to continue to grow, and it's almost going to be kind of like the freshman of the year last year. Not freshman of the year last year. Freshman team, all freshman team last year had a few VMI guys. Well, they're not. You knew they weren't really the best freshmen, but their counting stats numbers were going to be up there so much. Newcomer of the year, that's our own award. That's not a SoCon award, but it should be, especially in the age of the transfer portal like it is. This one's another tough one. Who'd you take for newcomer of the year?
Yeah, I'm actually sticking with my preseason pick. I'm still giving it to Rylan Jones. I mean, what he's done for this Samford offense is really like the Samford offense may be easy to run, but he's doing it just about as well as anybody. Um, 4.2 assist to turnover ratio is fifth in the country. You know, we talk about the offense for them. He makes it look so easy, but then he and Graziani are both at the front of that press, like possession after possession. They're both averaging a steal per game. There's a reason why he plays the most minutes on a team that rotates 12 guys every night. So he's so important to that Sanford team. I'm going to go with Jones.
Yeah, he's super impressive, and I don't think if you don't watch Sanford, you don't realize it because his numbers are not anything crazy. But it just felt like, especially, and we'll talk about it here right after we get done with this, the Sanford Western Carolina. It felt like if the ball was in his hand, something good was going to happen. In a pick and roll, or he had a big shot, laid a big deep three over Lampton, I think,
Hmm.
and I literally he had the ball in his hands, and I said, "Oh, he's gonna hit a big three. He's gonna hit a three," and you could tell Lampton was playing off enough, and of course, Cash. Yeah, he's been really
Yeah.
impressive. But I went with Kamari Peterson, JUCO transfer at ETSU, and his numbers are impressive. And I had a tough time. I think my three candidates there were Peterson, Ebby Asamoah, his teammate, and Rylan Jones. And I think Peterson I kind of went with the stats there. I think Peterson over Asamoah is fairly easy to me, not because I think there's big difference, but I think Peterson is everything they go through. He's a distributor. He hasn't shot it well, but nobody has at ETSU. Um, but he's kind of their guy with the ball. Ebby Asamoah more creates for himself, and that's not a shot at him or anything. I mean, that's kind of his game. I think Kamari Peterson is he's looked everything like a guard that was on a national champion in JUCO. He's been really really impressive, even though ETSU is kind of struggling, and I can't totally pinpoint other than let's figure out how to put the ball in the bucket.
Yeah.
Coach of the year, that's the last one, and we didn't do a preseason coach of the year, and I'm kind of glad we didn't because I don't think SoCon fans maybe realize enough like how good the coaching is in the SoCon. Like it's not like this in every other league. There are, off the top of my head, there are Bob Ritchie, Bucky McMillan, Justin Gray, Dan Earl, um, Mike Jones. There's all these guys that would not shock me at all. They'll probably be coaching in high major basketball at some point. Like they're just all bright young stars in the game to a point. And I'm sure I just left somebody off just doing that off the top of my head, but whatever. But point being, super impressive, but it's pretty easily this year. I think it's got to be Bucky McMillan.
That's
And
lucky.
maybe
Yep.
I'll cover this for both of us here. Um, Samford is on the nation's longest win streak. They started with 2 losses and now have won 16 in a row, all with the guy I picked to win Player of the Year in the league. The guy who looked like,
It's
they were going
crazy.
to run through Jermaine Marshall this year is what I thought. And maybe, I had a guy I was talking to the other day that was saying, they might be better without Marshall. I don't know if I totally believe that, but man,
No.
not playing through one player and having such, I mean, it is the system is why they're winning games. I would say Western Carolina is winning games because they got Vontarius Woolbright going for 20 and 14 or 20 and 12, and that's partially the system, but they got dudes. Samford, they do also have dudes. They all have a lot of really good players, but their system is what's winning them games. And I think Buckyball is going to be making its way, some bigger school next
Yeah.
year, unless there's no good jobs on the market. It might end up being a Bob Ritchie situation where he comes back and says, I want to be here. I didn't want to go somewhere else, which is code for there were no good jobs and I'm not going to take a bad job. And that's totally okay. And you can also, I don't blame him at all for, you can lie to the fans a little bit. I mean, that's just the thing. You
Hmm.
shouldn't, especially if you're in a situation where at Sanford he's winning, a couple 21 win seasons. We'll see how many wins they get this year. Same with Richie at Furman. Why would you leave a situation that's so good where you're winning so much to go to something that's barely even better or a really tough situation? So, but yeah, it's easily
It's
Bucky
Bucky.
McMillan. He's been so good this year. I think runner up's got to be Justin Gray. What he's built at Western Carolina, a school that's um, has no real history basketball wise winning. He's got them, looking like they're probably one of the top 5 mid majors in college basketball, along with Sanford. Um, yeah, super impressive job he's done, and it's incredible that you say those two in a league like the SoCon, a smaller league, and there's so many other coaches that are easily viewable as guys that will have a bigger job at some point in their life.
Hmm.
All right, got the picks out. Like doing that. We'll at the end of the season we'll pick for good after SoCon play is over and probably close or around tournament time whenever they start to announce that stuff. We'll do our picks again. But let's move on. Game of the year for sure so far. Had the most hype so far of any game, and it probably was as good as any game just from a level of high quality basketball teams out there playing really good basketball. Sanford, Western Carolina. Sanford took down Western Carolina on the road 75-71. Felt like for a minute we were going to get some overtime. We didn't. What were your thoughts on that game? I'll start you off there. What did you take away from that game?
Yeah, the first one is, you just mentioned Justin Gray, but it was so cool to see, on TV at least, that environment in Cullowhee. I mean, they were fired up, and when Trey Jackson hit that first three, it sounded like they just won the NBA Finals. So that was really cool to see. Um, it kind of looked like Chor took that game personally. He and a lot of the Sanford people feel that he probably deserves Player of the Year talk that he's not getting, which Wilbright is. And he just came out on a mission in that one. 35 points and 10 rebounds, knocked down countless threes early and late in the game. Biggest takeaway for Western Carolina is you've got to find that the best big in your lineup that was going to help you win games because Lampton and Colin Granger came out and just got cooked by a chore early. Lampton came out and got 2 early fouls because he couldn't guard a chore. Cornelius Williams and Bernard Pelote did okay, but when a guy's on like that, it's hard to stop. Um, overall, just wasn't Western Carolina's best game. Russell Jones heated up kind of late, but outside of Woolbright, Jackson hit his first 2 shots, then he finished 3 for 13, and Jaden Campbell went 4 for 12. So a lot of credit to Samford there for how they defended Woolbright. They made an effort to make him pick the ball up early, and make somebody else make a decision, right? Because we've talked about his usage rate, and every shot is him, or every possession is him shooting or making an assist of some kind. So they wanted to take the ball out of his hands, and to some extent they did that. But right now it's very clear these are the two best teams in the SoCon. Um, you can bet Western Carolina is probably going to be stewing about that one until February 14th when they play again in Birmingham. But for now, they can't just look ahead to that because they do have a matchup with the now healthy Furman next week that could be or excuse me, Samford has a matchup with Furman now. So, you know, those are the two best teams, but that was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, I wanted to, I meant to say a chore with the huge game there. He had 35 and 10, missed one shot in the first half. I mean, it was an unreal performance
Same.
from him, and I want to shout him out because he's been awesome all year. But first of all, he's not going to. He did shoot like 5 for 9 from three. He's probably not going to do that. Teams, maybe he does if teams guard him like that again, but they're not going to sit in the paint Ben Simmons defense on him. But I will say I have this is what I have. Shout out to Chor, but unshout out Charles Lampton and Justin Gray. And I've hyped up Justin Gray all this time, but it was so clear and obvious that Lampton could not guard a Chor because while Lampton can protect the rim, that man cannot move
Can't go
laterally
outside.
at all, dude. I mean, every play a Chor would catch the ball, slightly pump fake a three to
Yeah.
get Lampton slightly off balance to move his feet. And instead of moving his feet, he would just like try to chest bump him while moving to the side, which is a foul every time. And so a Chor just gets the line every single time. And part of the reason why I'm saying also unshout out Justin Gray, I think here's the thing with a Chor that I hate, and I love him as a player. But man, can he quit running his mouth so much? He does. I like when players talk sometimes, but it's short every single play. And I saw Bucky McMillan get mad at him, jawing.
Mm,
He was jawing at the crowd, and I saw him grab him. But I he gets on my nerves a little bit. If I was playing against him, I would get so mad because I mean it's like he doesn't shut up. I would tell him to
mm,
shut up in the middle of the game. Like he jaws every single play. Like he could have a wide open dunk. But I think that really made Cornelius Williams mad, and I thought Cornelius Williams had low key a breakout game and he didn't play like the whole first part of the second half and barely got any time. Let me look at what his exact minutes were. Cornelius Williams, he played 13 minutes and he guarded. I think he looked like he took it personal, and athletically, he was the only guy who could really stay with a Chor. I thought he did a good job and, had a few big putback dunks. I thought something clicked for him in that game, I thought, where he looked like the player I thought he might be able to be preseason. I thought preseason he might be a guy that would start for him and really could make a difference and be, what Tyshawn Claude was just because of the level of recruit to a point he was coming out of the year. And I thought he looked something clicked there. And we talk about them having to find a big. I think he may end up being it just off that game. I think if he can, use some of that momentum into the next game because I thought he athletically blocked shots. Maybe one time they did have like I don't remember if it was Campbell or State McRae, like had a weak layup and he could have easily just grabbed it and he swatted it like a mile into the stands for no reason. But athletically, he, was on the glass, had a few putback dunks, was blocking shots, was playing good defense, and he barely got any time. And it's almost like Justin Gray was like, well, Lampton's been our guy this year. He couldn't guard him,
mm,
and he kept him in late game. And you knew as soon as the Chor caught the ball that he was going to go straight at him, and Lampton was going to lean over and hit him with his chest. And as high as I've been on Lampton's defense, that's a horrible matchup for him, and that's one that you got to kind of all right. Let's move on to someone else. Let's see what he can do here because I've never been so frustrated watching a game when somebody looks like they've got something clicking and you pull and you don't, you ruin their momentum by not playing them. Secondly, I want to talk about Rylan Jones, which we've already talked about.
mm,
He's
mhm.
so just the engine that Samford runs on. I think I don't know if there's any player as important as him on the team, which sounds crazy, but like I said, there's just something about him that numbers can't catch there. I mean, he just does he ever make a bad decision? I'm not sure. Does he ever miss a shot that he needs to make? No. He's always, you would tell a Chor's having a big game. What's he doing? He gets the ball, calls for a screen and roll with a Chor, and is 100% looking for him the whole time. I was super impressed with him. Um, and that's part of the reason I'm not picking against Samford the rest of the year. And I tweeted that out, and some people because I picked against them back-to-back games, UNCG and Western, which not like that's anything crazy. I think UNCG and Western were the favorites in those games, but were barely an underdog. But I don't think they'll play in a tougher environment against a better team the rest of the year. Now they've now got who else could they get that's going to be that good? That's going to be an environment like that. Maybe at Furman. That's probably
Yeah,
a fully healthy Furman hasn't shown us anything because they haven't been healthy, but probably is near that top tier of team. We'll have to see how they all mesh together, but they probably are. And that's the only one that arena could get excited. Maybe at Chattanooga if they get hot. They did play with Samford in that first game. Looks like it was going to be a really good game, and then Samford pulled away in the second half. Maybe they get a really good crowd because at the Roundhouse it does get loud. I think in my opinion, one of the best environments would be Chattanooga, would be Samford, would be Furman. Those are probably my top three. When it's loud there with these good teams. Western Carolina had a national TV game, got everyone there. That one's going to turn into it, I hope, because they showed up in that game, and Western, leads the SoCon in attendance every single year in football. But in basketball, they don't get the same. I think they're realizing, all right, Justin Gray's onto something. We might have a foot or a basketball team too here. I hope that happens, but I just don't see with Samford another game that will feel confident to pick against them. If Furman really
hmm
gets going, okay, then I'll think about it. But I just don't know about it. And it added to that, they were saying on the broadcast, and that's the first I've really heard of it, that it'd be 2 to 4 weeks on Jermaine Marshall. And we'll see. I'd say it's probably gonna be closer to 4 weeks. But if they get Jermaine Marshall back, man, are they going to be beatable?
yeah,
I don't know
that's
with how good they
terrifying.
mesh. Maybe he hops in and you know, one thing I thought that Sanford when they struggled was when they realized that Chor had it going, and in the second half they came out and went to him every play, and I thought they struggled there because that's not how Sanford plays. They don't go to the same
Right.
guy every play. Um, and maybe that messes them up. Maybe they're like, all right, Jermaine's our best player, let's go to him, and that messes with the flow. But if he can come in and just be the guy he is, a dog, that's really the easiest way to explain it. Man, they're gonna be tough to beat, and I would pick them in almost without a doubt the NCAA tournament to win a game.
100%.
They're going
Yep.
to be, their style of play, the guys they have, the depth they have at every spot is pretty unreal. Like a guy like Zach Loveday doesn't even play, and obviously he's
Couldn't
not that
mesh
great,
with
but he's
them.
a 7-footer, and having a 7-footer as your third big, there is. I mean, just think a few years ago, Chattanooga when they played Kofi Coburn in Illinois, and they had Avery Diggs as their third big at 6'11", and he came out and played. Avery Diggs, wow, I'm gonna get on a tangent here. Avery Diggs is probably like the most didn't get anything done compared to like that dude could play. That dude could play basketball. I think that was a Lamont Paris thing. He loved Josh Ianni, who I think he fouled. I think Josh Ianni in that game fouled out in like 5 minutes in that game, but he loved him some Josh Ianni, and Avery Diggs is really talented. But that's such a luxury to have, especially in March when you got that many bigs that you feel like can at least guard well enough. So yeah, I've been every bit impressed about him. Didn't say a lot about Western Carolina. You got anything about Western Carolina? I'll let you talk.
Yeah, it's really just finding that big. I mean, you talked about it a lot that Williams was so good, but Williams has to find a way to contribute offensively as well, whether he's just a lob threat or whatever it is. But, it's just kind of clear that Lampton's not really cutting it. He's great at protecting the rim, but, I kind of feel like Cornelius Williams can do that to almost the same extent. He's a little shorter than Lampton, but to me, like, I don't know that I see a space in the lineup for Granger all that much. Like, I would probably put him as the fourth big. Like, I would put him behind Lampton, Williams, and Pelote.
I think
Um,
Pelote's kind of before, but yeah, I
yeah,
agree with you.
but you can, if you wanted to, like, you can play him at the five if you're looking for just more offense overall. But you know, they Justin Graves has a hard job trying to find, the right guy because the other four in that lineup are so good that you're almost doing them a disservice to, stick with Lampton when Williams is probably the right option, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. If they're going to reach their ceiling, I think Williams is going to have to be the guy that really figures things out. Let me also say, I thought DJ Campbell played great, and I don't have to talk too much about him, but I do think DJ Campbell's going to be on all conference next year. He's a really good player, and shout out to him for like just being in the background because he looks every bit ready to really contribute, and he knows it's Woolbright, Russell Jones, Trey Jackson's team, and he just takes shots when he needs to, scores when he's called upon. He's a good player. He's gonna, I thought it was crazy. They were talking about in high school he had 60 points. That's like in a game. That's hilarious. But yeah, no, I was impressed with him. Let's go on to his two bid SoCon possible. That goes right along with it. And I think there's an easy answer to this. There's two situations. Samford and Western Carolina are the only two teams in the league that have any chance at an at-large bid, which we already know is almost impossible. But at the same time, if you think back 2 years ago when Chattanooga had Malachi Smith and David Jean Baptiste and all those guys, and they end up winning on the buzzer beater, whatever. Furman was in that large talk for a minute, and then they lost a bunch of games late and really, sold it away. This year, I believe in Western Carolina and Samford. If they can both, and this is a big if, because I think the biggest, let me just go first. I think if they can both win every game, but the ones against each other. So I think either way, if Western Carolina beats Samford next game or Samford beats Western Carolina, I think it doesn't matter. Maybe it does a little bit if Western Carolina loses both to Samford, but I don't know that that really changes that much to me. If they can do that, and then at least make it to the championship, which isn't that hard for really good teams. Not to say that but you know what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Um, and Asheville, I think both of them can get in, and that's not me, taking hopium here, like just homerism here, like I watched the SoCon cover the SoCon, like yeah they can do it. There's a legit easily like, are they going to leave? What's Western Carolina at 3 losses? Are
Hmm.
they going to leave a 4? If they lose to Samford again, are they going to leave a 4-loss team that also beat, went on the road, beat Vanderbilt, Notre Dame, McNeese State, who's everyone's, I just don't. I really, they will face so much wrath if they were to leave a team like that out. Same with Samford, and I think Samford's got a great, outlook on the rest of the year. But here's the biggest, I think, crusher of all those dreams. It could be Furman,
Mm.
because Furman is finally getting healthy, and they were picked preseason to win it all, and have had a super tough year, obviously with injuries. But when healthy, we all know they're if they can figure things out on paper, they're a good team. Alex Williams has been even better than expected, so they may even be better than people thought they were going to be. If a team loses to Furman, with what Furman's resume looks like, that's all the NCAA tournament needs, the NCAA committee, to kick one of those teams out. And that's not to say that Furman's a bad loss at all. It's not, they're
Hmm.
losing to Furman. There's no shame in that, especially this, with how talented they are. But I think teams are going to, or the committee, how they go about things. They're going to see, oh, they lost to, a 500 Furman team, which they're obviously not going to finish 500 unless somebody else gets hurt. But at this point in time, a Furman team that was 9-9, or a Furman team that was 7-9 or whatever at one point, they lost
Hmm.
to them, and they're not going to look at that stuff. I think Furman has the biggest, you know, ability to ruin everything for everyone. And it kind of sucks because it really shouldn't. Like in reality, if Furman was fully healthy all year, they probably would be like right up there talking about another team that could potentially get a bid if they had Foster and Williams and Pegues all year. So that's my biggest thing. You have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, it's funny. I knew we were going to talk about this, and I had class with our good friend Chris Dortch. And afterwards, I pulled him aside and I asked him this exact question. I said, "Do you think Two Bid SoCon can happen this year?" And he said, "Not this year." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Furman's down." He said, "When Furman is down, you see the league kind of as a whole gets less respect, if that makes sense." because a lot of times, like Furman is near the top of the league and they draw some kind of national attention. And when Furman has a down year, the national attention kind of turns away from the conference as a whole. And then, just looking at the numbers, like Samford is the best team in the league in terms of net, and they're 77th, and they're 0-1 in quad one. So those are the types of things that, the NCAA looks at when they're picking their tournament. So, I would probably agree with Dortch and say it wouldn't happen this year. But, you make a great point that, if Furman, gets better and now that they're healthy and losing to a Furman team that was under 500 at one point, the NCAA is just going to turn their nose up at you because they don't know. Well, they know what Furman's been through, but they kind of just look at the record more than anything. So that's a really good point.
So here's my argument to that. I think Samford obviously is getting a ton of um, of recognition right now, and nationally because they're on the biggest win streak. It was an awesome game on CBS Sports Network. Western Carolina is also getting a ton of coverage because Vontarius Woolbright is putting up the second best numbers in the country, probably after Zach Edey. And when you have a star like that, I almost feel like if Samford were to be the team that somehow misses out and loses, they will have misses the tournament. They will have a tougher time of getting in than if a team with the same record in a Western Carolina with a star like Woolbright. I think it'd be hard for, you know, all the national media is going to be like, they should make they should make the tournament. They've got one of the best players in college basketball. I do think that really plays into things. I think the team with the most losses, and this is high major, but I remember this being a thing. Oklahoma, when they had Trae Young, they had like 13 losses or something, and Trae Young, and they made it just because Trae Young, and that was probably the wrong decision. But that's all I'm saying. Star power does move the committee a little bit, especially if they have a guy like Woolbright who's averaging 20 and 13 and has done it against everybody. Did it against the SEC, had a game winner, And I also think the league is not bad. All these people were talking about, the SoCon being a
Hmm.
bad team. We've got Samford 16-2, Western Carolina 15-3, UNCG 13-5, Wofford 11-7, and national. All these people think Wofford's great, and I'm kind of saying that sarcastically because I've had some
30
people
win Wofford.
in my mentions, Tennessee fan saying they were going to win 30 games. I've had another guy upset that I said Wofford wasn't on the same level because they're not really totally. But at the same time, Wofford's had a good year. ETSU's had some big wins, and hopefully they don't fall apart like they are. Furman is 9-9, and you feel almost certain they're probably going to finish 5 games over 500 at least. There's just a ton of teams that are going to, Mercer, Citadel, VMI are all going to look poor at the bottom there. But that's 7 teams that are going to have a good record and very easily are going to be over 500 in the SoCon. I just think this year is really deep to where the league might get a little respect, regardless of if Furman is good or not. And going back against Dortch a little bit there, I think Furman's going to finish the year with a record that looks really good because unless somebody else gets hurt, because they're all going to be healthy and they've got 3 stars that are playing at a really high level right now. So that's all I've got there. All right, finally, we're going to talk about the other games from last night in the SoCon. We'll finish up with those. Furman, 40 points, 40-point win on VMI. Not a lot to talk about there. Furman looked good in the second half, thankfully. They had a horrible stretch in the first half where it was horrible basketball, and not to pile on VMI, but it wasn't surprising for VMI, but it was a little bit for Furman there. Other game, ETSU Wofford. I took ETSU, you took Wofford. Turned out to be, just like we picked it, a toss up there. Wofford took them down 75-73. Crazy ending to that game of Wofford fouling up three so that ETSU couldn't, shoot a three, which it's not fun to watch it, but it's the right strategy. But they did kind of screw ETSU. They had, late there. What else are they gonna do? They're trying to shoot a three, and I do think that's a little bit of a um, bone to pick I have with Brooks Savage. Is I think at the college game, I don't think you need to commit to shooting a three. I think they committed a three with like 28 seconds left. You could tell that's what they were trying to do. I think you got to, if you can get an easy layup, take it and make the other team hit free throws, because college guys are not automatic, are not Steph Curry from free throw range, or don't have that clutch gene all the time like NBA players kind of seem to have a little more. But they're fouling. Brooks Savage used like 2 timeouts to keep redrawing it like what
Yeah,
he had. And Jaden
yeah.
Seymour comes to the ball and is so clearly shooting the three, and they grab him and they don't give him the 3-point shot, and he misses the second free throw. And I don't know, that bothered me, because I hate that. I hate how college basketball does continuation. It really, really and truly bothers me, especially in late game. Because I remember I did that actually in AAU once when I was younger. We're going back to my old highlights here. I got a foul call from half court doing that once. And I think that's what people need to do more of when teams are fouling like that. Just
Throw it.
they're gonna foul. Just be ready, like literally go up to shoot before they foul, because you know they're gonna do it. But the problem is with that is they still call it on the floor in college basketball, and it's kind of a poor thing. But in saying that, they still got, Wofford went up and missed a free throw in the front end of the 1-and-1. Just like I'm saying, I think you can't trust college players to hit free throws like that. No, it's a tough thing to go up in a 1-and-1 and hit free throws like that. And Kamari Peterson got a great layup look, and somehow Kyler Filowich
Tyler Filowich.
used every bit of athleticism he had and put that off glass.
No
Shout out him.
chance.
Shout out him making big plays. He always does, like late game, gets a big board or something and goes crazy. He
The
got
gamer.
got a hand on that layup. I thought it was great by Kamari Peterson going to the rim, got right to the rim. I can't believe Filowich got his hands on that. Great block. But yeah, that's a crazy ending to that game. Bone to
Yeah,
pick out with college basketball, but yeah, go ahead on the game.
yeah. Underrated moment in that game is Jackson Civil's 6 point possession.
I saw that. That
Like
was a big time moment.
ETSU had them on the ropes. They were up four. Like it seemed like all hope was lost. And then Jaden Parker fouls Civils on a three. He makes it. Doesn't make the free throw. And Kyler Filowich gets an offensive rebound, kicks it back out to the corner. And Jackson Civils has 6 points on one turn. So a lot of things just did not bounce ETSU's way in that game. And then, you know, what if you're Brooks Savage, you have one of those timeouts left at the end because you didn't burn it, on that one possession? Do you call it? I'd probably let him play anyway, but it's something to think about. But just a lot did not go right for ETSU. And then one thing to look at with Wofford is their next stretch of games. UNC Greensboro, Chat, Furman, Samford, and Western Carolina. That's their next 5 games.
Golly. They
That is
did
their
get
next 5 games.
BMI, Citadel, Mercer there to
Right.
start.
And
So
that's why they're 4-1. So this 5 game stretch will really tell us who Wofford is.
yeah, and like you said, shout out Jackson Civils. That was a crazy play, and
That was
he's a good player. I don't know if his ceiling is quite, like he's gonna be some. I don't think he'll be some 15, 20 point game player, but he's a really good connector.
solid.
And part
Hmm.
of why I think they're gonna be good next year, because they got guys like him. And then you think of Filowich, Corey Tripp, um, some of those guys can make a jump, and they're returning everybody. Hopefully, Dylan Bailey. I like them a lot, and that was a crazy play. I was actually watching the car with my dad. We went to watch a Vanderbilt play the other night. Just we got tickets to it, and I was like, no way, 6 point play. Sitting there watching it. Second game or third game actually of the night, we had UNCG beat the Citadel by 6 points. Super close game. There's not much to say here other than UNCG isn't playing their best ball, but who is Mikal Brown Jones. He carried. He woke up this morning incredibly sore, had to get a back massage. I hope all his teammates gave him a back massage. 39 points. That's like the
Insane.
quietest 39 points, because it was like not a big game on the slate, really. You thought UNCG was really going to hold it down on 21 shots, 8 for 8 from the line, 3 for 4 from three. And here's what I have to say about MDJ, because he's been doing this all year. Were they holding him back last year? Was, Muhammad Asabdulum, or I'm totally messing the names up, and Bass Layett, who they had, were they holding him back, bringing him off the bench? Imagine UNCG last year with all the guys they had like 17 fifth-year seniors on that team. Imagine if they had this version of MBJ. And I don't think he got this much better over the summer. I think he did get better and he stepped into a bigger role, but he is good, dude, and he's been every bit of impressive as I've even talked about him. I mean, I'm not gassing him too much here. A 39-point game. Nobody else on the team scored in double figures or even like over 7. I don't remember the exact number. Actually, I think Atwell had 9, 3 for 9 from 3. Typical Atwell stat line, just chucking threes. I love it. But yeah, no, crazy performance from him. And then Chattanooga, they got Mercer by 14. Trey Bonham with 27 points and in a 74-60 win. There's not much more to say than Trey Bonham's been awesome.
Trey
He's
Bonham can go, dude.
none
Yeah.
of, like I said, none of Chattanooga's problems revolve around Trey Bonham. That dude can play, and he is made. While I think he's got to get better distributing the ball sometimes he gets a little tunnel vision. He's made other guys like Honor Huff way better, I think, because now Honor Huff has another guy back there that can go like he can, and it's not all on
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, shout out Chattanooga real quick. They got punched in the mouth on Saturday against UNC Greensboro. And you could kind of tell they learned from it a little bit. They came out, they were the more physical team against Mercer. Demetrius Davis played 24 minutes, who, at times has been almost unplayable because there hasn't been offensive output. Played 24 minutes, had 2 steals and a block. And then Alexis was great too, 8 boards and 3 blocks. I'm a big,
Almost got a poster too there. He almost had
yeah,
he got an and one. Almost was a big time poster too. That was
yeah.
almost a crazy play.
I'm a big proponent of your defensive energy kind of leads to offensive output, and so maybe this team is kind of learning that maybe they're more defensive minded than they may have thought, and it may lead to some offensive energy for them. What was the stat you read me about them
Yeah,
topping the
on
SoCon?
on Ken Palm, Chattanooga is the top ranked defense and defensive efficiency, which
That
defense
is
of Dan
not
Earl, like what?
that is not a Dan Earl stat.
Yeah, it's
It's
and
on
I
the
think
way.
that revolves around Sam Alexis a lot, but
A
having guys
hundred
like
percent.
Demetrius Davis come out and produce the
Mhm.
way they have. And I should have said that on Sam Alexis. I don't know why I didn't say that talking about his defense player of the year case. They're the highest rated defense in the SoCon right now on KenPom, which is
Crazy.
unreal for this roster with multiple under 5 foot guards playing minute or under 6 foot, not under 5 foot. That'd be crazy. Under 6 foot. And yeah, I agree with you on Davis. What a fall from grace he had from being a guy. I've said it before. Like I sat beside a scout at the SoCon tournament that was like, "Oh, who's that kid?" Like he was asking me. He was there to watch. Uh, Really, he was there to actually watch Jalen Slauson, but he was also watching. He had notes on Slauson, Bothwell, and Jake Stevens. That's who he was covering in the tournament. And he also saw, I was like, "Oh yeah, that kid right there, Davis." Is like he grew. He was like 6'1", 6'3", and his freshman year of college, and he grew to 6'9", and still getting into his body, but he can technically he can shoot the three, drive, athletic. He's if he figures it out, and he was like, yeah, dude, like he's got potential. I wrote it all down. Then he comes out this year, doesn't look like had gotten any better. He just kind of struggled everywhere. And if he
Mhm.
can provide big minutes for him, because he's a guy that got 20 a few times last year, could provide some scoring, and really his shooting was a big thing. If he can provide minutes, they might figure out that 4 spot. Even though in saying that, I think Tyler Millen may be the answer because Tyler Millen played really well ever since. We talked about him being a consistent, just gonna be a consistent connector for him, and he started off the year rough. Like he started off the year,
Mhm.
if Tyler Millen had the ball, you got scared that it was the decision he was going to make a little bit. Like he was not shooting the three well. He was not making good decisions. Now he's shooting the ball well. He's making good decisions. He kind of has found his spot. So shout out to him. Shout out to Davis maybe as well if he can continue some momentum there. All right, I guess that's it for us on this episode. Another fun week next week. SoCon plays awesome. I'm totally enjoying doing this podcast, and I'm getting my triple monitor. I have my laptop, a little mini TV, and my big monitor here. I get 3 games up on them at all times during the nights of big SoCon play. But we appreciate those that if it's your first time listening, we really appreciate you. If you continue listening, we appreciate you even more because we love the people that keep watching, keep interacting with us. Um, we have fun doing this, so we hope you have fun too. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Same with Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which hopefully I can get it on this time. My software wasn't working last time, so I couldn't get it. Was just saying error every time after I'd wait like 30 minutes with the audio file. So hopefully we get it up on those, podcast places too. But if not, we'll still have this YouTube here no matter what. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.